we've really concentrated. So far, we've really concentrated on how to add information to Wikidata. But just as important as that is realizing that there's lots of flexibility in Wikidata about the way in which you can retrieve information also. And actually, that's what makes Wikidata of more of general interest, I think, in that even if we don't do it, there will be software that will be retrieving the information that we put there and reusing it for other purposes. So let me start to share my screen. Here we go. No, the host has disabled screen sharing. Is it possible that that can be enabled for me? Muib, you the host? Are you there? Or who's the host? Is the host here? Or have they left?
Hey, Moib, are you there?
Let me make you the co-host, then you'll be able to share. I'm coming.
All right,
Sorry.
please do that.
Yeah. Okay, I've made you the co-host. So.
Let me share my screen. Fantastic, thank you. Here we go. Okay, can people see the screen that I've shared now? I will hope so. If you can't, then please complain in the chat. Okay, so as I say, we'll review a couple of your contributions and then look at how to navigate and search and query Wikidata more flexibly. So start off, the two things I wanted to concentrate in looking at the contributions that you'd made is one about how to connect new items, and the reason why that's a good thing to do, and also consider in more detail when it's difficult to know if two items are the same.
Sorry.
Okay, so
here I can't. I'm sorry. Here I can't see your screen, but I don't know if it's from my side because sometimes network also do like that.
Thank you for saying that. That's very good. Let me look again and see if I have not done this properly.
Yes, now it's showing.
Now it's showing. I'm sorry, that was my mistake. My mistake. Thank you. I'm going to start. Thank you, Suzine, with an example of someone that you added, Sylvester Waiti, who's an electrical engineer and entrepreneur in Namibia. Okay, so what do we know about this person? We know that they are human, they are male, they live in Namibia, they're a business person, they're an electrical engineer, and we have added a fact here that their employer is Northern Regional Electricity Distribution. I actually added that last fact. And why did I do that? Well, it so happens that Suzine had not just added it on Wikidata, but I know this is cheating slightly going into next month's topics, but she's also added it on English language Wikipedia. So let's have a look there. This is the page that was added with information about this Namibian business person who works in sort of solar power and other electricity supplying. But you'll see that there is that another editor has nominated the article for deletion, and this is something that is discouraging when you're editing and you have people sort of you put in the work to make an article, and and other editors complain about it. I think this article is just about well enough supported by sources to be allowed on the English Wikipedia, but I think it's very hard for a lot of African countries because the sources are not as widely available or as trustworthy looking to people in the global north as is true for some countries. So I have participated in the deletion discussion to try and keep this. Somebody says, "Oh, look, there's only one source from there's only one media outlet used, so that's just one citation." So I said, no, there are two citations from the Namibian, and then they say, "Oh, no, but they're pretty small." So then I went back and looked at the others and said, "Oh, actually, one of these ones in New Era Live is an interview rather than just a press release." So I'm having the argument there. And that's one. If you want to ensure that your edits on Wikipedia in particular, and particularly English Wikipedia, stick around, sometimes you have to take part in deletion discussions, or ask a friend who is willing to help take part in those discussions for you, and who's got a bit of experience as to how to make arguments that other editors will take seriously. But the other thing I thought was, in order to make this, it seemed as though I could understand why they might feel, well, why is this individual important when at the time it was written, we didn't have any page for the company that they worked for. So in fact, what I did was added that as a little stub page. And we didn't have, and then there was another company that he used to work for, and I added that as a little, as another page. But at least then, even if this particular page, we don't know what's going to happen, it could be allowed to stay, but if the decision goes against us, at least that encouraged some general growth of the of Wikipedia about Namibia and about this area in particular. And I also, having these companies there, helped to make it more obvious why it would be a good idea to have a page for Sylvester. And it also means that, not that one, if we click through to NORAD, there's a fact there just saying that the chief executive is Sylvester Wayuti. Great. Okay. I've done a bit of helping there on English Wikipedia. And in general, I want to say that it feels to me part of my duty as a mentor here is if you're ever encountering problems or resistance to having your edits accepted, and you'd like some practical help, then ask a friend. I'm here to try and make sure that the work we do together is as productive as possible. So what you see I did here was added that Sylvester Waiti was once employed by the regional electricity distribution, or is at the moment, but I haven't added the fact that all I wanted to make sure here was that if you wanted to use a useful button here, what links here? Well, actually, what we see is it's linked on the this particular page is linked on the on all of our user talks because I've sent you the agenda for today's session. But it's also linked on that page for NORAD with a separate fact that NORAD's Chief Executive Officer is Sylvester Waiti. Now, what I think is interesting, though, is that the other page I added to do with Sylvester Waiti, which was for a company that he used to work for, Alpha Namibia Industries Renewable Power. As far as I can see, that's on Wikipedia now, but I don't think, let's see, that it's on Wikidata. No, that's not there on Wikidata. So if we wanted, we could add that, and we could add a similar fact tying it to Sylvester Waiti. Although when pages are added on Wikipedia, they do eventually, in a semi-automated way, make their way to Wikidata. So you can simply wait for that to happen if you're not in a hurry. But all I wanted to show you here is that when you have these connections, you can navigate them using what links here. So if we are on this Northern Regional Electricity Distribution, well, what links to Northern Regional Electricity Distribution? Oh, Sylvester Waiti links to it. In fact, there is a link going in both directions. And these links between different items, I like to think of if you make a new item without any links like that, it's a bit like a loose thread on the edge of a kind of big net. Whereas if you put the links in, as many links in between items as possible, then it makes it part of the net. It makes it part of something that is more central to Wikidata as a whole, rather than just being a kind of loose thread on the edge. And also means that if anybody wanted to come along and start deleting any of these for some reason because they thought they weren't well referenced, although these are, or then they would stop for a moment, because a general rule in Wikidata is you don't remove items that have links to them without checking those links out. So it stops kind of casual deletion of items if what you've done is ensured that you haven't just added a spindly little thread, but you've added several things that are sort of interconnected in appropriate ways. So it acts as a protective method, slightly on Wikidata and slightly on Wikipedia, although if it ever comes to an argument about these things, you have to use the different standards of notability that are in play in each place. And I will just say that the standards of notability are lower on Wikidata So if something is removed from Wikipedia, that does not, English Wikipedia, that does not mean that it'll be removed from Wikidata. And it's also true, I think, that Wikipedias in other languages are sometimes easier to have lower general standards of notability, or fewer people in America and the United Kingdom and Europe arguing that they're not interested in Africa, which is sometimes a problem. Well done, Suzanne, for having a go at Wikipedia. We'll see whether that page stays. But one of the ways that you can keep your edits as to be as secure as possible is by linking them in as much as possible. Now let's look at Isaac's adding here of Gillian Cassirer. I don't know if that's how you pronounce them. Who's an educator who has founded a school and is a curriculum specialist. And once again, I looked at this and I thought, well, if I was looking at this, actually, I'd be a little bit worried because we have just one reference that they're a human, but actually, I think that's the person's own website, so people might feel a bit as though that wasn't a great reference. Oh, there's a slightly better one there for the fact that they've had they spent time at the University of Makerere. But I thought, okay, I want to protect this new item, so I added some external identifiers, and when I just Googled their name, I discovered they'd actually set up a school. So I thought, okay, let's add that school as well. So that now there is a school that's linked to Gillian Cassirer, and Gillian Cassirer is also linked back to the school. There's a link in both directions, or at least there's a link from this school to Gillian Cassirer, so that we're making this new item. We're sort of knitting it into the fabric of Wikidata. And I think that's a useful thing to remember when we're adding individuals. We can quite often get into the habit of thinking, okay, we want to add lots of Ugandans or lots of Sierra Leoneans, and we just add human after human after human. And one problem with doing that is that sometimes people are very conscious that people who are alive want to use both Wikipedia and to some extent Wikidata as advertising, and that's not what it's for. So partly, I think you should always ask if you're adding an individual, and the reason that they are worth adding is because they have a position in relation to an institution, but the institution itself isn't added. I think it's a good idea to try and add institutions as well as individuals to sort of link the two together, both in Wikidata and in Wikipedia. And an example of this is goes the other way, is Kachifatu added, sorry, I didn't give you a name properly there, added this network of African women environmentalists. Okay, so let's see what links here. Well, I've mentioned it. There's somebody who's worried about whether or not it's notable. Or is wanting to make sure that they're thinking about it, but there's no other links there. what would be quite good is if we added some of the members of the network, I think. So, for example, I went to a page that looked at their leadership team, and their leadership team included some people who don't have any entries in Wikidata at all, some people who have an entry in Wikidata, but it's not linked. And so that there's more that we can do in the other direction to go from the institution here, the organization, to the people involved with it. And I think that's one of the good ways in which adding interesting institutions or organizations can sometimes give you lists of people that you're then interested in. And then going from the people to the place where they were educated or the place where they work, etc., and you're adding it in the other direction again. So again, going in both directions here is a way of knitting together Wikidata and also Wikipedia to make sure that anything you add is well integrated and also is the new stuff that you've added is a new kind of jumping off point for more to be added again. Now, the final example here, Noura Beramuni, is an interesting case. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for her in Wikidata. All right, okay, so there's a Noura Beramuni that we're wanting, the one that's involved in environmentalism. Let's look at these two because we seem to have two. One's a researcher and one isn't provided with a description. Let's look at this one first. Okay, this one is also a researcher involved in working for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And apparently has some identifiers in libraries here. I'm going to go to the Library of Congress one because that sometimes provides additional information. Okay, this person has written global guidelines for the restoration of degraded forests and landscapes in drylands. Cool. So that is Q420 something, right? Okay. Now let's look at the other one, Q880. And let's see what they do. They're also a researcher. Oh, there's no information for them. Maybe we can find out something using that special identifier. So let's do a I've forgotten her name, but okay, I'll do. Noura Beramuni. The extent of forest in dryland biomes. Wait a moment, that sounds exactly like the other one, right? So it seems to me likely that what we've got here is two different Wikidata items which need actually to be one, which need to be merged. I'm confident that there aren't two people with exactly the same name who are both writing on the way in which forests have to survive in drylands. So that's the. So we knew we wanted an environmentalist, but it's in fact we seem to have two, and we want to merge them. Okay. Now, how do we, so yeah, we've discovered these two look like the same, so we need to merge them. How do we do that? Well, let's have a look. Let's go to help merge. And this explains what a merge is. And you can try and do it manually by like moving all the claims over and then deleting or redirecting one of the items. That is a total mess. That's lots of work, and it's very easy to make a mistake, and it's not so helpful to any of the automated users that are trying to understand what's been going on. So automatic merges with the merge gadget are preferred. Okay. How do we do that? Automatic good. Merge.js gadget. That's the one we want. To enable this function, open preferences and select gadget. So let me find preferences, gadgets is where I'll go after that. So preferences, somewhere I look for gadgets. Oh, gadgets, good. And then I'm going to pick the gadget for that. And save. And now, if I go back to the let's go back to one of these. I should discover, do I have to log out and log back in? Yes, there is an action here that I can merge it with another one. So let me see which one I want to merge it with. So let me take the 421 and then I'll go to the other one, the 881, and I'll merge it with, and then I copy in the one that I want to merge it with. And in general, I leave these as they are. What it tends to do is merge into the older one, so that it gives it the smaller number. But you can change that if you want. Let's merge. And now we have just a single item there, which has merged the two, and we can look at the history to see that there are some claims that it's added in from the other one. Now we've cleaned up that little area of Wikidata by only having one item. Okay, so that's the case if two items are the same. You can merge them, and to do that, you need the merge gadget, and you can find out how to get that there. But here we have a nice example of the other way around, where we have two people who are genuinely different people, but have got the same name. And here the point I want to make is this was really good because thank you ever so much for making this example, John, because what you did was you started adding one of these two, and then you realized that there were two different people, and so there should be two different items. And what I wanted to emphasize is when you do that, try and make the two items at the end of the day as easy as possible for someone to see are different. And I'll show you some tricks to do that. So both of these people, this one is a political scientist. They have the same name like this, but they have different middle initials. So, or different middle names. So if you can see anything like that helps to disambiguate, then put that S in, because the other one will have an A there. Also, if you really want to emphasize it, what you can do is you can actually add a fact to remind people that there are two Olubukola Adesinas who are academics in Nigeria. There is this one who is a political scientist, and there is the other one who's an obstetrician and gynecologist. So using the different from value is a helpful thing to do there. Now, when are two items the same? Okay, so I've said if they're different, try and make it as easy as possible for others to see that quickly. Add some extra facts if necessary to make it clear that they're different. And you may want to use that different from aspect to make sure that people are aware there's somebody that you could confuse. So if somebody has the same name and they're in a very similar job, it's often useful to make sure that other people aren't going to confuse them. On the other hand, if two people are really the same, then merge them. Now, there are definitely occasions that I've found where I just don't know if two people are the same. Okay. If I was local or if I had sort of particular expertise in the area that they're involved in, and I would know maybe, but I'm not sure. There are sometimes occasions where other sources have mixed up two people, and so the whole situation is confused. Okay, so my advice there is, if you're confused about whether two items are the same or not, don't just merge them. Frankly, if you're confused, try not to make the situation worse by adding your confusion to it. Ask for help from somebody else or leave things as they are. Because I think to try and be overconfident when you're not sure about something is a recipe for confusing other people along with you. So those were the two general morals I want to bring out. That like try to connect new items, and if you do that, it helps the changes you make last. And think quite carefully if you're not sure whether two items are the same or not. And then I was going to go on to think about the main topic for this week, which is navigating and searching and querying. So I think maybe I'll just look at navigating now. And then we'll do a more detailed look at searching and querying in the next half of the session. Okay, so what are useful links? Suppose so we're on a user talk page. And even on a user talk page, you can see what links here. Nothing. So they're not very useful. We can also see, though, that something that is useful on a user talk page is user contributions. This guy, DSP13 training. What have they done? What have their contributions been? So these are all the edits that I've made as DSP13 training, which isn't my usual username, but it's one that I've used just so that I don't have everything looking different when I share my screen. And I have made some edits there, but actually most of my edits have been made not as DSP13 training, but simply as DSP13. So in fact, you can use the shape of the URL here and directly edit it if you want a sort of another shortcut to go there. So I'm just going to see all the edits that have been made by me on Wikidata. And then you see I've actually made a silly number of edits. And my most recent edits were telling all you guys what we were going to be talking about today. But I've also been adding some facts about some of the people that you've been adding facts about. And in general, that's something I'm going to continue to do for while you're academics fellows, is when you make edits, I'll try and help by adding in the same area, because I think it's a lot more interesting and fun when we do these things together. But that's a very useful one, and in fact, I can, if I wanted to embarrass one of you, sorry, Veronica, I could do exactly the same thing by substituting your name in there, or your username there, and that shows all the edits that that you have done on Wikidata. Now, obviously, we don't. What user contributions here means is all the Wikidata edits that someone has made. Global contributions give you a sense of not just things that have happened on Wikidata, although all my edits recently have been on Wikidata, but if they've edited some other thing like English Wikipedia or something, that would go up first if that was the last edit they made. But I find this a very useful button, because it means if I don't know who somebody is or what they've been doing, I can find out what their interests are very quickly by looking at this. That's a useful. That's how I find a very useful link, is to look for user contributions. It means if I'm interacting with someone in any way or want to find out more about them, I can find out what they've their other contributions have been. As we've seen, let's go to an item page, like say this one for this educator. We can use what links here, but there are also a whole bunch of really kind of useful links that I want to emphasize down here. The main page, I don't tend to find very useful, but there is a main page.
Sorry, someone's hand is up. I don't know if you attend to him, or after, when we are done, then you attend to the person. John Joy, his hand is up since, so I don't know. Thank you.
John Joy, do you want to ask something? I can't hear you, so perhaps if you want to ask something, you can ask it in the chat on the side, if your audio is not working well.
Okay, thank you. Think the hands, he has dropped the hand, so you can just continue. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, no problem. Recent changes gives you recent changes across all of Wikidata, and I don't find this very useful in any way myself, but it's sort of interesting to see all the different things that are happening. Random item can be fun. Here's a Japanese actor. Here is a scientific article. Here is a director and screenwriter. Here is another scientific article. And what you actually discover quite quickly is that there are a lot of scientific articles in Wikidata, as well as things like this, which are sort of biological terms. And actually, one of the great things about having more African academics in on Wikidata is it means that the scientific articles that are there will be can be linked much better to the African authors of those articles. The one I really want to emphasize, though, because I think it's super useful, is help. If you already know what it is that you're wanting help with, you can kind of browse some of the different areas of help here. There's a lot more that is talked about here than I'm going to have a chance to tell you about. But there are other interactive tutorials. There are some frequently asked questions. If you are having problems with whether or not somebody is thought to be notable on Wikidata, then here's a place to look. If you want to know what the guidelines are for how to use qualifiers, then there is information here. Some of the help pages here can be quite technical and demanding to read. So they vary in how readable they are. Some of the more beginner-friendly ones are here. Some of the more technical things, like, I don't know, lexemes, are something I won't be talking about in my introduction here, because frankly, they're the way that Wikidata is modeling language itself. So the different senses of words. And I think to do that, you need to know quite a bit about Wikidata, but it also helps if you know a little bit about linguistics, or at least have learnt foreign languages in a fairly formal way so that you can understand things about verb inflections and all that sort of stuff. So, I think something like lexemes feels to me like an advanced area, though I know at least one of you has sort of looked a little bit at it. But that wouldn't be where I wouldn't imagine that would be a kind of easy way to make a difference, except for the fact that there is a definite need for anybody that does understand linguistics as well as know languages that are important to Africa, but have not got much coverage. There's definitely a need for work there, but that's a kind of highly technical area of how to extend Wikidata, I think. But interesting, if you're interested in language, it's certainly something that is there. And then finally, there's a very useful link here of tools. And again, I'm not going to be able to tell you about many of these tools, but I'm going to tell you about a couple of them later on today. I think the help link is great, but quite often you can look at this and think, well, I don't know. My question isn't really answered here. You could see if it was in frequently asked questions, or you can type into a search box here that only searches the help pages. So at least that will mean that you may be able to, if there's a specific thing that you'd like help with, that can be helpful. But as I always say, the ultimate help, if this isn't helpful, is ask somebody else. Okay, we're all, in the open knowledge movement, we're all doing this together, and we're only able to do it because of the activity of everybody else. And there is absolutely no shame about asking for help. The people that do that most tend to be the people that discover new things fastest, frankly. Always feel that, if you can't find the help you need, then ask. Ask other people that are fellows here, ask your mentors, etc. Or indeed people that you encounter who have edited the same kinds of pages as you and clearly have the same interests. That's the way in which, although there's less community on Wikidata than there is on Wikipedia, I think, because it's smaller, that community is something that encourages other people as well as encouraging you if you let yourself sort of join in with others. Great. Okay, so I think it's now a good time to stop, because those are some of the just general useful navigation, user contributions, what links here, and the help page. I think those are some of the most useful ones. And in the second half of this session, we'll have a deep dive on some advanced searching techniques, which actually become basically querying. And if we have a little time, we'll have a look at a couple of tools that help you get more out of Wikidata in bulk. Cool. So I'll stop talking there, and we can all have a little break. Does that sound good?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So shall we come back at the end of the hour?
Yes, please. So we should just take like 5-6 minutes break and come back by 4 p.m. UTC. That is 5 o'clock. W8. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the class. Okay, please, everyone, go and take your I will say ice cream break, because it's hot here. So everybody, go and take your ice cream. We will come back by 4 p.m. UTC. That is 5.
Oh,
Yeah, it's time. Welcome back.
thank you very much. And I didn't have any ice cream here because in England, I can only dream of it being warm enough for ice cream. So it's not the same weather. But there you go. So yeah, what I was going to talk about now was searching in Wikidata and some sort of special tips to get the most out of navigating using search. So let's go to share my screen before we start. Sorry. Mm. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen now. And what I want to do is let's start off with the search bar that's up at the top. And if I click in there, you see that there's a drop down on the left which says items or properties or lexemes or entity schemas. I'm not going to say anything about lexemes, which are to do with modeling languages, or entity schemas, which are more technical ways about the structure of things in under the hood in Wikidata. But I will just say that it's very useful to be able to search in particular for properties. Because imagine you can't remember the property that you want to use. That's one use of it. Or you want to find all the properties that might be interesting. So let's just try searching for all the properties that in any way mention African. So apparently there is an African plant database ID. There's an ID for South African plants. There's African American visual artist database. There's an African film database ID. There's a academic library in academic study center in Holland or somewhere, which has with African studies, and they have their own way of classifying things. There's an African Journals online journal ID. South African Hockey Association. Let's see if Pradamics. Let's see if there's anything about. If there's anything about African scientists. Oh yeah, apparently there's a African scientist directory ID. Oh, cool. We'll come back to that a little bit later. All I want to show you here is that you click in the search box, and immediately the default you're searching for are items, which are individual things. But you can also search separately for properties. And if you need to, and if you want to know more about a property, if you remember, I don't know, country, there's more than one kind of country property. So there's country like this. Oh, that's not to be used for human beings. Okay. Which one is the one to be used for human beings? We're looking for properties. Country. Oh, country of citizenship. That's right. That's the one that you use for human beings. So there are sometimes several properties with the same name, and it's useful to be able to search and kind of compare them. Or if you don't click on any of the drop down and you simply hit enter, then you get the big list and you can look at all of the list. Okay, so that's one thing about searching, that you can search separately for items and properties. Most of your searches will be for items, and I want to start showing you some of the clever ways that you can search for items. Okay. But suppose you're interested in Ugandan scientists, and you type in Ugandan scientists, and this gives you, in fact, a whole bunch of different individuals that have the description Ugandan scientist. What happens if you were to type Uganda scientist? This gives you a slightly different list. It also includes like a category that is a Wikipedia category, or the Wikidata page for a Wikidata item for a Wikipedia category. We're not so interested in that at the moment, but you can see you have lots of names here. This person that's one way in which you can do it. But as you see, there's slight differences in depending whether you use Uganda, Ugandan, scientists, etc. These differences, the search isn't perfect, and if you're searching by just language, then you don't always get exactly the result you want. So you may want to try several different results. And this is similar to searching in other places. Just as this has got 65 results, but if I make sure I want the exact phrase, Uganda scientist, I get none, because it's not a very common phrase. But if I want the exact phrase Ugandan scientist, I get 7. So just as with searching in Google, if you know that you want a phrase, then you can get fewer results, more targeted search by putting quotes, search exactly for that phrase. Okay, so that's just like searching elsewhere. But I want to here show you a special thing about Wikidata search, which is on Wikidata and uses not just the keywords that are mentioned, the language that's mentioned, but sorry, I'm clicking back or trying to click back. Oh, okay. No, here we go. That'll do. Okay. And if you want help on searching, there is a whole lot of help. And what I'm going to tell you now about searching with statements is also described here. But I'm going to use examples that are to do with what we're interested in academics. So here is the thing. There is a magic keyword, has WB statement, all one word. And what it does is it says, I want to search for everything that has this statement. I think WB stands for Wikibase. Who knows? But it's a weird keyword to use, but it is the one that seems to have someone invented a while ago, and so it's just that it's the one to use. If you're interested in getting a list of all the Ugandans that Wikidata knows about. So by Uganda people, I mean items which have country of citizenship, which is P27, equal to Uganda, which is Q1036. What you can do is this in the search bar. Let's try that. We put in the search bar, has WB statement, P27 equals Q1036. Okay, this is almost, it feels a bit like we're doing programming here at this moment, and but let's see what happens. Oh, nothing. Wait a moment. Have I mistyped something? That was not very. Sorry, let me check something. P31 equals Q5. I think I must have the right. I think my instructions should be ignored. Let's go back to the help and see how has WP statement. Okay. What is Uganda? Uganda is correct. Uganda. Yeah. Right. Okay. What have I done differently there? I'm not quite sure why this initially didn't work when I tried typing it in here. And apologies for this. This shows you that I hadn't tried doing this before starting. But if I put it in the search box up here, yeah, it seems to be working now. I don't know why it wasn't working. I'll see if I can discover what was wrong with that as we go along. But what this does, searches for all the items that have country of citizenship, which is P27, equal to Uganda, which is, and unfortunately, because it's written in this slightly ugly way, it's not, it's not easy for humans to read. But it is very clever and very flexible in that it's literally giving you a list of all the Ugandans that Wikidata knows about 7,000 of them. And what you can then do is you can add additional constraints to that. So I don't know, you could say, okay, I want all the Ugandan all the Ugandan academics. So let's add, as well as that they're from Uganda, let's add now that their occupation, P106, is this thing. So here's our search results, which has all the Ugandans. Let's type has WB statement P106, which is occupation, is this thing, which apparently is academic. And so it appears we know about 37 Ugandan academics. There may be others there, but we may not know that they're Ugandan, or we may not know that they're academics. But these are people that have that listed. And let's suppose now, let's look for, let's add more in there. Okay, let's find out people that we know are Ugandan and we know they're academics, but we don't know their employer. And employer is P108. And we use a minus sign to say that we want all the ones that do not have any result for employer. So now let's add minus P108. So this is all the Ugandans who are academics, but we don't know who employed them. Let's see if we get any results. do there. So that might be, you might want to go and add an employer for this computer scientist or whatever. That can be a way to find specific combinations that you may be interested in. Or suppose instead of academic, we use researcher, which is okay, that's researcher apparently. So instead of academic, we put in researcher there. And actually we find that there are a lot of people who are listed as Ugandan researchers, but are not listed as academics, but and these are people that we don't know where they're employed. But that tells you, just as it can make difference to your search results exactly which word you use, it can make also difference to your search results exactly which items you mention in your search when you do a statement search like this. Nevertheless, it's immensely flexible. We could also see, I happen to know that the property for gender is 21, P21. These are all the Ugandan researchers, and we don't know what gender they are. Okay, so here's one. So you can see that this is really quite a flexible way of finding items where some things apply about that item and some other things don't apply about that item, and putting those together in any combination that you want to make interesting lists that may be ones that simply you want to show off, or you can find all the people that don't have images or that do have images. You can find the people that are born in a particular year. But there are some limits to the kinds of searches you can do this way. You can find people that are born in a particular year, maybe, but you can't find people that were born in a particular decade. You can't sort of, or you can find people that were born in a particular country, but you can't find, you'll find people born in a particular, you can find people whose citizenship is a particular country, but you probably can't find this way people who were born in a particular country, because all we may have is the fact that they were born in a particular town, and you need another fact to sort of link that town to the country. So to do more complicated kinds of queries, to retrieve data from Wikidata, the search box is not good enough. What you have to do is use a more elaborate way of sticking together the different parts of a query that you're interested in, using a query language. And the query language that people use to query Wikidata is called Sparkle. And it's a bit like a database query language, SQL, but it's adapted for knowledge graphs. And Sparkle is something that isn't just used in Wikidata. It's a query language that's used about knowledge graphs in general. But to make it work on Wikidata, you kind of have to know a bit about Sparkle in general and a bit about Wikidata and how to put the two together. And that can be quite a lot of work. Thankfully, though, just as there are some tools to help you do querying a little bit more easily. And I'm going to just give you a glimpse of the query service. Now, I don't expect everyone here to become expert queriers, but I think it's good to know that there are ways to retrieve, really quite flexible ways to retrieve the information that you've been putting into Wikidata. And if you've got a kind of more software developer type mind, then you will find Sparkle not too hard to get to grips with. And for the rest of us, we can ask a friend when we need help with that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do now is look at what is called the Wikidata query service. And as you saw, that's another of the links that you can get to quite easily from Wikidata. But it's difficult to know what to do when you get there. I know what I'll do. I'll go off here. One thing you can do is look at examples, but in fact, even easier than looking at examples is a query builder that in some sense holds your hand through building some queries. So let's go to a query builder. And just like we did before, I'm going to say that we want to find all the people who are Ugandans, so who have country of citizenship. And this time, nicely, we don't have to remember the p-value for country of citizenship. We can simply start typing country and see country of citizenship mentioned there. And we want to find all the people where country of citizenship matches Uganda. And I'm just going to start typing Uganda. Oh, good. There we go. So I've accepted the kind of drop downs that were suggested. So I should find all the people in Wikidata whose country of citizenship is Uganda. And just to make it slightly quicker, I'm going to limit the number of results to 100 and run the query. So this is just like the search we did before. It's exactly the same one. It will give you the same list. And in this case, it gives you the Q value of the item and then the label. And if you wanted to have the whole lot, and it takes a little bit longer, and then we've got the whole lot there. And there are various ways that you can sort of download those. If you wanted to have them for reference or something like that. Okay, so that's all the people as we saw. About 1,000 Ugandans are known about. Now let's say that we want, in particular, Ugandan researchers. So now let's say I've clicked, and so we have citizenship matches Uganda, and I'm going to say, what is it? Occupation. Occupation, great. Matches research. Fantastic. Okay. And let's see how many we get now. So we'll run this query. It's a different query. And it takes a little bit longer, because what it's doing, it's finding all the people that Uganda, and then for each of them, it's saying, oh, well, are they a researcher or not? But now we have a list of the 651 results. There are 651 Ugandan researchers. Okay. And then we can also add, add a condition. Suppose, let's find all the Ugandan researchers that we don't have an employer for. So without employer, and here we don't use matching, we have regardless of value. So we don't have any employer. It's not that we want all the Ugandan researchers who are not employed by Google. We want all the Ugandan researchers for which we don't have any employer at all. Okay, so let's see how many of those there are. We had 651 Ugandan researchers. And Here we go. Hopefully we'll get the results soon. Good. We have 336 results. Okay, that's interesting. Or we could, of course, ask for all the ones that we do know the employer of. Let's do that. Let's find all the Ugandan researchers where we do know the employer. So I'm going to just click with. So it's like country citizenship, Uganda, occupation researcher, and employer regardless of value. So we'll run this query. And once again, this will give us a list of all the Ugandan researchers that we know the employer for. Great. These are all Ugandan researchers that we know the employer for. Oh, wait a moment. Okay, so we know the employers for these people, but I can't actually see the employers mentioned here at all. And that's because the query builder here is basically only really good enough for sort of combining bits of queries together to give you a list, but it doesn't give you more. There's no way of using it using the query builder itself to provide more structured information at the end of the day. And in order to do that, to have the flexibility to do that, you can certainly do that in Sparkle, the query language, but that means you're actually going to have to not use this interface, but actually look at a Sparkle query. So I'm going to show you a Sparkle query by showing you the query in the query service here. And remember, our query is people have country of citizenship, Uganda, occupation researcher, and are employed by someone. Okay. So here we go. This is the sort of ugly query that we've just run. It's in a query language. It says, I want to select some items with a label where we're going to use English if we can for the label rather than another language as our default. And then I want this item to have a particular, and this is, I don't expect you to be able to read this, but I'm just giving you a sense of what these different bits do. These two lines say, okay, this item has country of citizenship Uganda, and it has occupation researcher, and it has employer somebody. And suppose what I wanted to do was, instead of use this just like employer, this kind of value, if I wanted to sort of slightly change this query to make it tell you who the employer was, then I'd have to do a bit of extra work. I'd have to have another variable called employer. I don't expect you to be able to follow this, but just to see that this is the sort of thing that you can do to queries. So we'd have to have, and I'd actually call this employer. And what that would do is say, okay, I want my item to have country citizenship Uganda, have occupation researcher, and have employer this other variable. And I want you to tell me that in the results. To actually print out, as well as the item, the employer in the results. And what you find out when you do that is that you get exactly the same people coming back, but it hasn't quite worked, and that's a bit strange. Interesting. I seem to have not done this very I'm not very. Oh, maybe you can't do it that way. Oh no. I wonder if we can do that. Just nah. No. Okay. I actually. Okay. One reason I think this is tricky is that there's some sort of slightly special way in which this query is being constructed, which is a bit more complicated than it's nice to have, and I'm not actually able to read it straight off. Example queries there are provided that you can look for. Here's a query, for example, of cats. Select an item label where the item is P31 means is an instance of, and Q46 is cat, and this lists all the cats in Wikidata. And so if I do everything as WTT and WD, okay. A slightly simpler query, which would have done the same thing as our original query, which I'm just going to construct for you to show you that some things are possible. Item WDT P106, and then okay, so this is a slightly a form of our original query in a slightly simpler form. And again, it says I want an item where, oh gosh, no, that's got to be WTT. I want an item where the country of citizenship is Uganda, the occupation is researcher, and there is an employer which is something. And let's run that. And you see we get our we get a bunch of results. We actually get slightly fewer results, and I'll explain why that is later. That's why they have the slightly more complicated query up above. But if you want to add in the employer so that you see that in the results, so let's put the employer as something that we, and the employer label, because we're mostly interested in labels to help us understand things as human beings. Employer. There. Oh, this is really annoying. I'm now really confused. Unless this is the wrong. No, this is correct. Oh, that's why. No, sorry. Yeah, I understand. Forget everything I was doing earlier. Yeah. Okay, this was our original inquiry. I realized what I was doing wrong. Sorry, the thing I was doing wrong was not writing employer twice. I apologize for this. I should have prepared this rather than relying on my bad memory of Sparkle. Here we go. This is all I wanted to illustrate, that by changing the query a little bit, and there was we can have not just the researchers, the Ugandan researchers, but also for each one, their employer. And you can also, if you want, do counts and things like that. And you can even have fancy displays that create word clouds where the size of the word in the word cloud is proportional, is to do with the count that of the number of things that are involved, the number of records there are, etc. So actually what you've got is a very flexible query language in Sparkle that can do all kinds of retrieval. Occasionally, some things, if you're doing like very big searches, then you have to run it in a slightly different way rather than simply running it on this interface. But you can basically do do all kinds of complex data retrieval using Sparkle, but it comes at the expense of some complexity. What you're basically doing is having to know how to write and change a query language in order to do it. There are plenty of people who do know the query language, and not where there are some things I expect everybody who edits Wikidata to be able to do. I certainly don't think that everybody who edits Wikidata should be able to write Sparkle queries. It's good enough that there are some people, and then we all go and ask them when we need help. So, if you would like a query written for you, if you think there's a specific query I'd really like to write and I can't work out how to do it, then by all means ask me. And if I can't work out how to do it, I'll go and ask someone else. And in this way, we build our community. So that's what I wanted to give you a sense of, is this sense that there's a sort of a kind of sliding scale of complexity, from clicking on a link to find your way around Wikidata, to doing searches that have got some sort of semantics built in so that you can use the statements that are of interest, and doing Sparkle queries. Now, what I would like to say is, just going back to these, there's lots of slightly hidden complexity in Sparkle queries, and one of them is here, that include related values, because this says that I'm searching for let's get rid of that. Let's just say I'm searching for Ugandan researchers. Okay, and I want to run this query, and I've include related values, which is recommended. And what I discover is that I get, I believe, about 650 results. Let's wait for that to happen, and we'll see what they are. I should also say that the length of time that Wikidata queries take depends upon a bunch of things. I think it probably depends upon how much other traffic there is at the same time on the Wikidata servers. It certainly depends on your own connection, and it can depend on the complexity of the query. And whether or not parts of that query have been cached by Wikidata. So it can be slightly variable how long queries take. But as we see here, we've got 650 results. And if I click that, I can download those, and I have them as a separate file. If I untick this box, okay, what happens? We had 651 results previously. Let's see what happens now. Okay, good. We've got results. Oh, we've only got 158. What's going on? Well, what's going on is that each of these, if we click through, we discover it has a fact saying that occupation is researcher. Okay. And that fact has to be there for this to be included in this list. But this related values in the search would also find cases where we had someone who was, say, a medical researcher, and we knew that a medical researcher was a subclass of researcher. So, for example, if you were using this to find all the schools that were located in Greece, okay, then that would not find many schools if you didn't tick this. But if you did tick this, it would find all the schools that were located in Greece, and Greece was located in in Athens, and Athens was located in Greece. So, and in this case, it would find all the people who were, for example, medical researchers, where medical researcher is known to be a subclass of researcher. So ticking these related values gives you more results back. So yes, ticking this box will likely result in a more complete list of results, and uncheck it if you need to see only exact matches. So that's an example of the kind of little distinctions that you have to be aware of when you're writing queries or reading queries or interpreting the results, that you can sometimes change your query slightly to get a more complete set of results, and you have to think carefully about how the data has been held within Wikidata in order to make sure that you're getting exactly what you think you're getting. Which is all to say, queries are immensely flexible, but with that flexibility also comes complexity and kind of complicated ways in which one query can be slightly different from another. Great. Okay. And in the last quarter of an hour, I'm not going to say anything more about querying. Querying's not for everybody. If you fancy having a go, then by all means do. If you have a query that you can describe in English, and you would like to see turned into a Sparkle query, but you don't feel that you're the right person to do that, then by all means, reach out to me and I'll try and turn it into a Sparkle query for you, so that you can not just put things into Wikidata, but you can get stuff out, get that information out again from Wikidata in a flexible way. There are the examples that I showed you, like that example of cats, but there are a bunch of other examples there. There's help, obviously available if you want to brave the Sparkle query language, but otherwise ask a friend. And Sparkle is a little bit more flexible than the earlier clever searching with has WB statement. It allows you more complicated queries with chains that involve, for example, multiple connecting hops. So you can find people that are parents of Ugandan politicians. You could do a query for people that were educated or you could do a query for husbands and wives that both went to the same university. There are all sorts of ways of you can and I haven't mentioned in any of these queries very useful things, which are using the external identifiers. So you could do queries for people who have ORCID identifiers but don't have a nationality, or people who have ORCID identifiers but don't have a gender, or things like that, are very useful for sort of creating lists of people that you might be interested in to try and improve. Queries are for that sort of stuff. And they also allow tables with more than one variable to be returned as results. And then you can do, in fact, hooked up to Sparkle results here, although I won't show it now, are some nice graphical displays of data. I want to use the last few minutes to tell you about just a few tools that are good. And this can't be a complete description of the tools there are available, because there are certainly tens, maybe even hundreds of tools. And which ones you find are of interest to you is something that only you can answer. But here are ones which I think are, which I found useful, and I think are useful for when you start working with Wikidata at greater bulk. And one of them is called Mix and Match. And I am waiting for this to load. And is it doing so? I'm not sure. Maybe it's not loading very well. Because I haven't, I'm not. Okay, let's go to a catalogue of interest. I told you about that. We found there was a catalogue for African scientists. Let's see if there's. Oh yeah, okay, good. African Scientist Directory, that's the one that we want. Let's go there. Good. And as I say, with this is the rationale for this tool is when there are big external lists that are outside Wikidata and we'd like to see which of them are in Wikidata, this makes it easier to do. And I don't think this was a good example to start with because some of the things have already been done. But what this does is it acts as a way to link the entry in the African Scientist Directory, which is in green here. Let's click through to it and see what happens. There we go. The African Scientist has a page about this Andrew Abba and a Wikidata item about Andrew Abba. But those are ones that have been matched. And then there are ones that have not been matched. And what we need to do is find out whether or not these people are in Wikidata. But what I'm also seeing is that my internet connection seems to be a bit slow, and this is not working very well. So I don't think I'm going to actually try and demonstrate how to use it now. But basically what you can do is you can decide whether or not you can search Wikidata. Let's see, Zarina Abdullah. Let's try it. Let's search Wikidata to see if there's a person that has WB statement, is an instance of human, a person called Zarina Abdullah. No, there isn't one. Okay, we should probably add them then. So what we can do is now go to Mix and Match. It should look a bit better than this. And I don't want to, this is the page about Serena Abdullah, lecturer in South Africa, from South Africa. Her research focuses on children in conflict with the law, and I have an ORCID profile. Okay, so let's go into that page. I'm going to say, well, we'd like a new item for this person in Wikidata. So if I'm going to click new item, and with a bit of luck, everything will work. Good. Okay, so now let's look at this new item that we've just added with one click. Great, we've added that there is a person, instance of human, who is in the African Scientist Directory and who has this ORCID. And what you can then go on to do is add the usual kind of extra information if you want. Their country citizenship, it was South Africa, wasn't it? And you can add this as the reference. Where do I know? How do I know that their country citizenship is South Africa? Well, their entry in the African Scientist Directory. What was the ID involved there? Abdullah was what told us that they were South African. Okay, so I haven't added much there, but we have a new item, and we basically added that item with a single click using mix and match. So mix and match is a great tool for doing things kind of in bulk. Let's see if yeah, here we go. That's the first tool I wanted just to let you know about. Another one is quick statements. And I'm not actually going to demonstrate this, but what it is, it's a way of adding a do they not have a nice example? That's terrible. It's a way of adding basically tables of data in a particular format, so that you don't, instead of adding something to Wikidata by clicking buttons one at a time, you transform it into a set of here's an example. You transform, if you create a text file which says create something which has a particular French label, Le Croissant Magnifique, and which corresponds to Le Croissant Magnifique in a particular in the French Wikipedia. So this text file is equivalent to creating a new item manually with a link to French Wikipedia, manually editing it, and with the French label Le Croissant Magnifique, adding it manually. You can do this by creating this text file and then going to the tool, copying it in, and that will allow you to create that in from a text file to go all the way into Wikidata. And clearly with that, you can do a lot of good and you can do a lot of harm. You can create 100 new items with one text file. You can annoy a lot of people because you can easily create 100 new broken items with one text file. Okay, so it's very important when you do batch processing like this to actually check what you're doing and check one of the results to make sure that you're not doing something different from what you thought you'd done. It's just like computer programming in a way. you have a lot. This gives you a lot of power, but it also means you can create a lot of kind of broken output if you're not careful about what you're doing. But if you ever get frustrated and thinking, oh, I don't want to just edit one item at a time, I want to take all the Ugandan secondary schools, I've got a big list here, and I want to add them all in, then something like quick statements is your friend. There's one problem with quick statements, though, or with adding items, new items in bulk, which is if the item is already in Wikidata with a slightly different label, it's possible you may end up creating the kind of duplicates that we saw before, which need to be merged. And so I'm just going to tell you about this tool. Another tool that is used to take you through that pipeline from a list, a structured list or a table that you find elsewhere, to check it against Wikidata and then add all the items in bulk. Another tool that's used, which is in some ways more flexible than quick statements, has got kind of extended functionality, is OpenRefine. And you can find documentation about that, but I'm not going to try and walk you through that because that would need an entire sort of introduction on its own. But that's to give you, I'm telling you about these different tools, not so that you definitely use any one of them, but so that you know that these tools are there, and also in a wider way are aware that there are in fact kind of tools that have been written for particular purposes around Wikidata, both to add information to Wikidata and to retrieve information from it, that you may want to look at some point. Great. That's all I wanted to say today. And my proposal for next week, the final Wikidata session, is that we do an edit-a-thon together. That we all edit at the same time, and we can use Zoom chat to encourage each other and ask each other for help, and we can see how much we can do together in 2 hours. And I think we'll be surprised if we do that, how much we learn, because it's very easy to well, I have a very strong feeling that the quickest way that we can learn is by doing, and that the way in which it'll be easiest for you to get most help at the moment you need it is by editing all at the same time, so that if you get stuck at any point, you can ask for help in the chat. So that's my proposal, that next week, that's what we use the session for, because I think that'll be the thing that will most transform your confidence in editing Wikidata. And the assignments I'd like you to complete are, if possible, if you haven't done this, I know a couple of you have, leave a message on my talk page asking me a question about something you don't understand, or something you'd like help with, or editing you'd like feedback on, or a search or query you found useful. And if you need help with a query, I'm very happy to construct them for you. But just try and play a little bit with complicated searches or queries to see just where you get stuck. And if there's something that you'd like to ask of Wikidata but don't know how to do it, don't know what the query would be, then by all means ask me for help, and I'm very happy to create that query for you. And slightly linked to that may be preparing for the edit-a-thon next week. All I really want you to do is know what you would like to try to do in 2 hours next week. Maybe you could prepare as much as actually having a list of people that you'd like to add, or a source that you'd want to make the most of. But have an idea of, if you were going to be really kind of concentrate on editing Wikipedia in a productive way next week, what would you like to try to do? If you need help with that, leave a message on my talk page. I'm very happy to talk through ideas with you. That is all I have to say this session. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point. And we are at the end of time. I'm sorry I haven't left any time for questions, but I'm very happy if you have any to answer them. I will just say, next week, if it's an editing session, there will be no particular point in your note taker being here. There will be an enormous amount of point in you being here and being able to use the time to actually reserve the time to actually edit Wikidata. Because if we all do this together, I think we'll be surprised how much we can do. And it would be great, wouldn't it, to like do a few more edits than the French language Wikidata people. I'm not, too much competition would be corrosive, but let's try and do well together. And I guess we should also pause the recording, whoever's job that is.
Hello, am I audible enough? Can anyone hear me? Hey,
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I make you the co-host. If I don't know if you can make me host now because my network actually kicked me out. And okay, yeah, thank you. Trying to stop the recording. Such an impactful training, and when you were training, someone actually asked a question that can an item be created for her or something like that. That can someone create an item for her? And I don't know if you can answer that question.
So I'm not sure I understand that question fully. But if anyone would like help, then yeah. So I am happy to help in creating items. If I can be of help, but I don't understand that question completely. Okay, it is quiet now, and we're 5 minutes after the hour. So, do you need me to help pass over the hosting? Because I don't know. Or can I leave?
I can all leave now since we are done with the training. Thank you so much, David. It was a nice time with you. Chance.
Thank you very much. Asante sana. See you next week.
My network is just kicking me out and bringing me back. I don't know. Mr. Dave, please, I don't know if you can help me to stop the recording or make me host so that I can do that here. Yeah. Okay, thank you for joining. See you all next week.
All right, see you next week.
Yes, thank you. My laptop has been down.
Thank you. Bye.